I'm Zena Krogadal, and many of you know me as the host of American Dreammakers. Today, I am proud to be the guest host of Roar Stories, sponsored by extendtheroads.org. Each Roar story is housed in the beautiful Roar Gallery in YouTube, where everyday victories plant seeds of hope for others. Because the human race wasn't meant to be run alone. Hope is a team sport. Yes, it is. Hope is a team sport. Here in the gallery, we believe something simple. Hope is the one thing that multiplies when we give it away. ROAR is a simple, never give up formula. ROAR stands for rise, R, rise to the moment. O, face the obstacle. A, take the action that moves you forward. R, and celebrate the results so someone else knows victory is possible too. Every story is in the gallery, follows the path. For sure, in this gallery follows the path. And today we're adding another legacy of hope to this gallery. You guys, this is amazing. Thank you so much for being here. Before we meet today's guest, if you believe that hope should be shared, please hit the subscribe and share of this episode. It's important. It is the simplest way to help someone find the fuel they need to keep going. Yes, so hit subscribe and share. Thank you. Hello, Wade.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing today? Wade, thank you so much for being here on Roar Stories. We are so excited to hear all about you. Please tell us, Wade, your full name, and also tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're from, and give us a glimpse of what life looks like for you today.
All right, well, my name is Wade Simmons, or Wade Gaffney Simmons is actually my full name. But I'm an independent filmmaker of 9 years, funeral service worker, going on 16 years, and I also did a little training for pro wrestling for 2 years. I did go to college. I graduated from Worsham College of Mortuary Science, and I graduated from Flashpoint, Chicago. So just a man, just an artist who loves life and just take life one day at a time. I love what I do. So basically, my day is just either connecting with people, putting together film projects, or if I get a call to pick up someone's loved one, then I have to be able to do my duty. So that's pretty much my life. You never know what your day gonna be like in the funeral business, but you just have to always be ready to serve.
So you say that you in the funeral business, but you also do film projects.
Yeah.
Wow, multi-talented.
Yeah, look, being in the funeral business definitely teaches you that, God is real and that, you take life one day at a time and you got to make the most of it. So I think it's an honor to serve in that business because I've always wanted to do it since early childhood. Um, it's just something that I just always was in love with. And like I said, ended up going to school for it. It was a very hard journey, but I got through it.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Really appreciate you and what you do because it is very important for sure. So, tell us, what is the victory you are proud of today, big or small, and what did it take for you to rise to that moment? So we're going to go over the R for rise, out of the roar story. So what is the victory you are proud of today, big or small, and what did it take for you to rise to that moment?
It was graduating mortuary college. One of the hardest things that I ever did. And I've told my story like a lot, but it's very surreal to me because it was really hard for me, especially being a person who comes from a background with having an IEP, which was a special needs student. So, it was a lot really very challenging for me, but I got through it. It took me a while. It took me a while because I went to mortuary school back in 2016, and then I was supposed to graduate with 17, but I didn't come out of mortuary school till 18. And then after we graduated mortuary school, we had to take this exam called the capstone. So before you can even sit for the national boards, you have to take a test before the test. So that's kind of where I hit a very, like I hit a wall basically, and it was really rough because for like 7 months after I graduated, I was still going out to the school trying to pass the test, and just it wasn't happening. I'm praying like God help me, and it was taking a while. So I made the decision to go to film school. Now, funny story: 7 months of just focusing on the funeral business, nothing's happening. I go to film school. While I'm in film school, I'm still trying to pass the funeral director test. As soon as I get accepted in film school, I pass the funeral director portion of the test. Now, this gets even more interesting. So, after I graduated film school, I remember praying and had a dream. God gave me this dream that I passed the science portion. So, I'm like, you know what, God, I trust you. I'm going to go ahead and take this test. I finally went out there and took the test and passed it. So, I finally was able to receive not only my film degree, but I was able to get my degree in mortuary science too, and be able to move on. So that was something that I'm very proud of, because that was like a really rough period for me, to be honest. Yeah, I was labeled as a student with a learning disability. That's something that I'm very passionate about talking about too, because I understand that I was diagnosed with, like, the way that I process things was kind of different, and it was rough. It was very rough, to be honest.
Well, and what an accomplishment that not only did you get one uh, degree, you got two out of it all. And, isn't it interesting how God directs our steps when
Yeah.
we can realize that sounds like he intended for you to have two, not one.
Yeah, it's interesting how everything just kind of how it happened. Now, I remember when I worked at the funeral home full time, the owner of the funeral home, he was kind of like, why would you go to film school and you ain't even finished this portion yet? And I'm like, look, time don't wait on anybody else. We can see from the work we do every day. And so I was just like, I've always been the type of person where, like, I believe in, like, never giving up, but I also believe in still going forward. And sometimes I know some people will be like, you just have to focus on one thing, but I feel like life is unique, right? Like, nobody's story is the same. And sometimes you're meant to do multiple things. And, so sometimes some doors don't unlock for you until you take the next step.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go to the O and roar obstacle. What doubt, fear, or obstacle tried to stop you? And I know you touched on it a little bit, but let's get a little, even more dialed in with that. What doubt, fear, or obstacle tried to stop you?
To me, the obstacle was the exit exam. I refer to it as the exit career exam because I almost really, like, thought about just like, I don't even want to, like, it's not that, that I lost my love for the business, but I'm like, I do not know if I want to do this, because this exam is just so hard. And it got so hard to the point where, like, I was working at the funeral home and I just felt stuck. And it's like, I doing what I love, but I can't go forward. And I ended up, almost losing my voice. I got diagnosed with a vocal disorder called spasmodic dysphonia, where my voice was strained real bad. And, they checked me out to make sure it was like no throat cancer or nothing. But what I found out was spasmodic dysphonia actually comes from stress. So just that stress of not being able to move forward, and that exit exam was just, it was rough. But I was able to overcome it by the grace of God. So I'm glad that we were able to overcome that capstone.
Wow, that's great. All right, we're gonna move on to the A in roar action. What was one specific action you took that helped you to keep going?
I kept taking that test. I kept praying, kept asking God, but I kept taking the test. And I know some of my friends thought I was nuts. Like, where you just going out there, taking that test and taking that test? But I was crazy enough to believe, look, if I prayed and asked God to help me and I studied, then he would help me. And, it took a little bit of time, but I was able to get through it. But I'm one of those firm believers that, like, you have to not sit around and hoping and wishing for things. You have to sometimes focus on the things that you want. Hopefully it's good things, and you have to be able to take the actions to get there. Long as those actions are good. But to me, you can't just sit around and just want things to happen without putting in some effort.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Well, kudos to you. Congratulations. Perseverance absolutely paid off. And yeah, that's phenomenal. Thank you so much for continuing on. Even when you were hitting those obstacles for sure. So we're gonna go to the R in roar the at the end. So we started with an R, we're gonna end with an R. Results. What was the result of that persistence, and how did you mark or celebrate that victory?
Well, so the result is that I do have a license. Well, still an intern in Illinois, finishing up my apprenticeship, so I was able to move forward with that. But I also have certifications in California right now as an arranger. I'm getting some other certifications, but pretty soon, before the year is out, I'll be a fully licensed director in the state of California and should be Illinois as well. So I'm excited about that. Like I'm not rushing anything. I've kind of been taking my time because I stepped away from working at the funeral home that I worked at full time because of the thing that was going on with my voice. My voice therapist kind of recommended me to kind of take it easy because I didn't want to do the Botox injections in my throat. I'm like, I don't know about that. So I'm more of a person that believes like more in like natural healing. And so I decided to just do everything at my own pace. And I feel like that's the greatest win for me because I'm like happier. I'm always grateful to God for each and every day. And like I said, I'm not trying to, pattern my life after anybody else's. I'm just kind of, like Frank Sinatra. I'm doing it my way.
And honestly, what it sounds like to me, you didn't just do it your way. You really were doing it God's way. That you were surrendering. You found a place to surrender it to Him. So, which released probably the stress, which was causing the issues.
Hmm.
It sounds like. So,
Yeah.
wow, very, very great. Oh, thank you for sharing that. So, when things get hard today, what is the one truth, promise, or reason you return to keep you from quitting?
Well, I put it like this. I always say that if it's in God's will for me, I'll get it. And so I truly believe that. And so like that's what keeps my determination is that I know sometimes we want things to happen right away, but sometimes, as to your point, when you do it in God's divine timing, it works out a lot better. It doesn't mean that you don't have ups and downs, but it works out a whole lot more better than what we thought it would.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you say that you kept going because you knew God said, God made the promise to you and you were holding on to that promise. Because, for many times it would be easy to be like, well, did I hear God right? Because it's not happening right now when I think it is. So, wow, kudos to you for keeping going, and thank you for sharing that. That's fantastic. One more thing. What would you say to someone who is still in the fight right now?
Well, for me, I always say, always acknowledge God, always give everything to Him in prayer, and sit back and analyze your life and see what actions you need to take. Sometimes some things are beyond our control, but if there's something that you can do to help yourself, go for it. And don't overwhelm yourself. Just do it at your own pace because you should never compare yourself to other people. And I learned that because everybody finds their journey differently. I borrowed this quote from a friend of mine from the pro wrestling business. He always said he's enjoying the journey. He's not worried so much about the destination because a lot of times on the journey we want to get to a certain destination, but when you get to a certain destination, life still throws more things at you. So it's very important to just enjoy the journey.
Hmm. Solid advice. Thank you. Thank you so much. And the truth that you just shared is exactly why extendtherose.org exists. And so it's all about being a champion for others. And speaking of being champions for others, I want to highlight our champ of the month, for this episode of Roar Stories. So this episode of Roar Stories is brought to you by extendtherose.org. And you've heard it Kimberly say, that Hope is a team sport. You heard me say that hope is a team sport. And every April, we take the team into the field for Champ Month and a national monument to visibly cheer for children and families in hospitals so that we know that they are not alone. So that's what extendtherose.org is. And during April, we flood the world with Sea of Yellow. Sea of Yellow. And people across the country wear yellow as a visible reminder that we are cheering our children and families who are fighting hard battles. So you can join us uh, wearing the Never Give Up wristband or a yellow Champ Month shirt. And so you can visit extendtherose.org/champ to learn uh, more about this and to join the movement because everyone needs a champion. Let's get back to Wade Simmons. Reflect on what you just shared, Wade. Something else that stands out in this, what would you say should be something that you didn't just survive that season? How would you explain that you weren't just surviving, but you were thriving? Is there any highlights from what you just shared in that?
Oh yeah, the highlights were the wonderful people that I met along the way, the things that came out of it. Like I was able to, meet so many up and coming artists and filmmakers. I was able to get into the pro wrestling business and train for that. I was just like it opened up so many doors. And to me, it's not so much about whether it was like on a big scale or something. It's just being able to meet people, connect with people, and just being able to know that, all of us are human and that, everybody has ups and downs. And so just, being able to connect with people and just, get to know people and like see how much we have in common, that brought me a whole lot of joy because it's like, a lot of times when you think of people that are more well known, everybody still has ups and downs no matter who you are. But it's like there are so many talented people in this world who don't really have, the spotlight on them and stuff like that. And sometimes, just looking at their journey and kind of seeing people on their journey, like that's the fun part, Like I've met so many people, and so I'm grateful for that. Like I think that, of course, I maybe would have probably wanted to, get my license and stuff a lot faster. But I don't have any regrets about the way God did it.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Wade, for sharing your roar story. It's very inspiring. And if Wade Simmons' story is speaking to you today, give us a like or leave a video comment at extendtherose.org/roar gallery. Your engagement absolutely helps the story reach the person who needs it the most. So thank you again, Wade, for being with us today on Roar Galleries and sharing what an inspirational story for certain. And you certainly inspired me today. So I absolutely thank you so much. But before we go, we do have a tradition here. So we don't just talk about victories, we claim them. And because when life gets hard, we rise, face the obstacle, and take action, and we keep going, just like Wade has demonstrated here. So around here, that spirit has a name: never give up. And you mentioned that as well, Wade, earlier, that you never give up. So wherever you are watching from, I want you to say it with us on the count of three. We're going to say never give up together. Okay, Wade, you ready?
I'm
One,
ready.
one, two, three. Never
Never give
give
up.
up. Thank you for adding your hope to the Roar Gallery story. And because the human race was never meant to be run alone, hope is definitely a team sport, and we never give up on each other. Thanks, Wade. Have a great one.
Anytime. Thank you.